Hey guys, we're back. It's chapter 16, section 1, the beginning of World War II.
Almost done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, 21 days left of school.
So, Hitler's Lightning War is the topic. And how do you say lightning war in German?
Blitzkrieg.
That's right. So, the element of
Surprise.
and speed involving tanks and planes and soldiers to overwhelm Europe.
Planes, trains, and
Good
automobiles.
flick, 80s. All right, April 1939. Hitler wants the Polish corridor to be returned to Germany.
Lebensraum.
Oh, that's right. He had already taken Austria. He had already taken Czechoslovakia. And Hitler's going to smarten up. World War I, Germany had to fight a two-front war. So to prevent that, Hitler signs a deal with his enemy.
The Non-Aggression Pact.
That's right. Tell me about that.
Pretty much, it's in the title. So promising not to, go to war with each other, be aggressive with each other, and promise to divide Poland. And so USSR will get the eastern half, and Germany will hopefully get the western half, and they can live happily.
And that will allow Hitler to take over the rest of Europe without worrying about getting attacked by the Russians.
Exactly.
All right. So here is the swastika, which has its grips all over Europe. And by 1942, Hitler will have in his control France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, of course, Denmark, Norway, Poland, the Balkans, which include Romania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Hungary,
Northern Africa.
It's quite the empire. But there wasn't much action after the invasion of Poland. They called it the Sitzkrieg.
Or like the sitting war. So the people in France thought that Germany's coming, and so they created this series of fortifications. Remember, we're kind of going away from the trenches with our new weaponry, such as tanks and machine guns. And they built this fortification, but nothing's really happening. The French are just kind of sitting there, and at some points they could actually see German soldiers sitting across the way, but nobody's given the orders to go and attack.
But then in May of 1940, the attack began, and the British were in France to help. And the miracle at Dunkirk, there were 338,000 British soldiers trapped at the edge of the city on the ocean.
Yep.
And Hitler allowed 883 British ships to come from England and rescue the soldiers.
When they say ships, not just the Navy. I mean, if you had a fishing boat and you could make it across the channel to get to France, they wanted you to help rescue. Yep.
And so even though the British had to leave behind a lot of their supplies and they lost the battle, it allowed them to be able to mount a comeback.
It's pretty risky knowing that all of your resources are in one area. I mean, Hitler could have attacked, but...
Yeah, that was his first big mistake of the war.
Yeah, and there it is.
All those soldiers that could have just been bombarded by the Nazis, but for whatever reason, Hitler let them go. Let it go.
I'm guessing he wanted to take France. And, probably more important to get to Paris.
So, May 1940, we have a new British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. And we're going to have Operation Sea Lion. And that is the invasion of Britain. But the goal was to knock out the British Royal Air Force.
RAF, yep.
And then invade Britain. But the British would not just roll over to the Germans.
Definitely not. And we talked a little bit about before having radar now and Enigma, the code-breaking machine. The British, with their willpower, were able to outlast this bombardment by Hitler and his Luftwaffe.
If you're interested in the code breaking of the British, check out the new movie, The Imitation Game.
Yes.
And it shows how the British were able to crack the German code. Excellent movie.
And we talked a little bit about this with the Zimmerman note, breaking the code, but not wanting to let everyone know that you broke the code because you still want them to use it, so then you could interpret those secret, messages.
Some attacks you had to let happen just because you didn't want to reveal that you knew where they were,
especially if it was unique.
All right, so the Germans, even though they'll inflict heavy damage and casualties on the British, they were not able to defeat Britain.
Nope.
Hitler had to call off the invasion, and Winston Churchill led his people and was inspiration to them. They never gave up.
It was this week, actually, 74 years ago, is the end of that London. Yeah, Battle for Britain.
You're just so dang smart.
I try. There's their version of radar. Just a guy on a roof looking for flights.
It worked, though.
I'm just kidding. There was, actual radar, but it did work.
But you needed everybody on board to help. And if this one man could locate some of the Nazi planes coming in, it gives people a chance to get underground.
Yep.
And
Or get
safety.
prepared. Yep.
This is evidence of the destruction of the Germans. It's a London building collapsing.
If you've ever seen London or been there, I mean, imagine the whole city on fire. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That the city was destroyed, and that they still.
Just imagine
Survived,
like
yeah.
9/11 every day for 6 months in a row.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it was
An
like.
entire city.
So, June 1940, Hitler's BFF Mussolini is going to come in and attack southern France, even though France had already been taken over. And the French are going to officially surrender to the Germans. Marshal Pétain is going to head a government that works with the Nazis. But Charles de Gaulle, a French general, is going to set up a free French government, but they're in exile in
Yes,
England
in
to
India.
try to free their own people.
Exactly. A little puppet government, you know.
Yeah. In Africa, the Germans are marching their way towards Egypt. If they can get past Egypt, they get the world's oil supply. So that
Suez
was
Canal and a lot of important.
very crucial for the British to stop them. Hitler sends in his BFF Mussolini.
He's got a lot of
to-
friends.
Yeah, unlike me,
Yeah,
to push the Italians
much.
back.
Mrs. W is your friend. See how she's ignoring you?
You guys can't see her. The British are going to push the Italians back 500 miles, and the Germans send in General Erwin Rommel.
The
And-
Desert Fox.
That's right. Foxy. And the Germans will push the British back 500 miles, and it's going to take the Americans later on to stop the
Exactly.
the Germans.
And just as an aside, just, you know, don't forget that, like, if something was happening in Germany, there was fighting going on all over Europe and eventually into the Pacific and into Africa. So a lot of these are happening simultaneously. So when you see the dates, winter 1941, you're probably going to see that a couple more times. But it wasn't just like, oh, we're going to pause in Germany, go to Africa, pause here, go to... It's all happening together.
That's a great point. Hitler wants to build bases for an attack on the Soviet Union, so he takes over the Balkans.
Wait a second. Thought he signed a non-aggression pact.
Nah, he's not going to honor
Oh,
that.
jeez.
Backstabber.
Sneaky.
Yeah. So those countries will fall, and then the Soviet Union will be next.
And here it is, Operation Barbarossa, June 22nd, 1941. Nice, I don't know, summer day, this invasion of the Soviet Union. And I'm assuming the Soviets were not prepared for this attack, seeing as though they signed that non-aggression pact. 3 million soldiers, look at 3,300 tanks, 2,700 planes. It's absolutely incredible when you think about the numbers. And they are able to get into Russia, even though they were implementing their scorched earth policy. Think back to Napoleon and his invasion, and the Russians doing the same thing, trying to stop them from, you know, coming any further.
And in honor of Napoleon, Hitler chose the same exact date, June 22nd, to attack the Russians, just like Napoleon did in
And
1812.
what do we remember about what happens if you're there for too long?
It gets cold.
Yes, the winter sets in.
That's
Anyone
right.
watch Game of Thrones? Winter is coming.
That's right.
Right. Game of Thrones fan over here.
So, Battle of Leningrad, the Germans are going to surround the city. They're going to starve 2.5 million Russians, and 1 million of them are going to die. It was so bad for the Russians inside that city. At first, after they run out of food, they're hunting their own cats and dogs
Exactly.
and eating them.
It's terrible.
And then after that, you're looking for crows and rats, anything you can get your hands on. It was bad.
It was even to the point where some of the Russian soldiers were giving like their rations, like trying to share some of their food with, you know, the people of Russia or the people of Leningrad. So
Yeah.
it was pretty tough.
The leader of the Soviet Union is Joseph Stalin, and Hitler wanted the town that was named after him. So that is the Battle of Stalingrad, this was the gateway to the oil fields in the south. And Stalin and Hitler both ordered their soldiers, fight to the death. So nobody's allowed to retreat, and we're going to see heavy devastation.
And it's, you think like World War II, hand-to-hand combat thing, that just reminds me of something that would happen during the Civil War. Not here, but
I know.
yep.
99% of the city destroyed, 1 million Soviets were dead, 250,000 German soldiers died.
But they stood strong.
And this was a turning
Yep.
point. After this, the Germans will no longer be on the attack. Now they'll have to start retreating.
Yep. And the one thing that the USSR has, lots of people. So
That's
even
right.
though so many millions died, were starving, they had replenishments and they were able to.
So this is an
Last.
introduction to the beginning of World War II. This is the European theater. We will also be talking about what happens against Japan in the Pacific.
Yes.
And that will be section
Dropping
2.
the ball.
All right. See ya.